When I was in school, my friends and I dreaded most of the educational films we were forced to watch. But if the projector started, this is long before video, I'm afraid, and we saw the words, Walt Disney Presents, we breathed a sigh of relief. That's because we knew we'd be entertained, and we'd learn things in creative ways our teachers could never compete with. After all, the people who created these so-called educational films were the same people who made Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Bambi, and all the other great Disney features. I don't know who but Walt Disney would have even attempted to tell the story of atomic energy within the framework of an hour-long entertainment show. But he was deeply committed to science and education, and even put his team to work on this book, which accompanied the TV show and became an enduring success in its own right. Our Friend the Atom premiered on January 23, 1957. Typically, the program takes us back to ancient Greece and then marches through the centuries to show us milestones in scientific progress. And just as typically, the Disney folks managed to sugarcoat the learning process by comparing atomic energy to a genie in a magic lamp. But this isn't patronizing. It makes every point crystal clear, even to a scientific dunderhead like me. I can't think of a more perfect way to illustrate an atomic chain reaction than using mousetraps, as they do in this film. Dr. Heinz Haber is our host and guide, and while he's not the most charismatic man in the world, he does his job well. Most importantly, he stresses the point that atomic energy can be a terrible force unless it is tamed. I think it's safe to say that back in the 1950s, neither Dr. Haber nor Walt Disney envisioned the potential problems that would come to be associated with nuclear power. They saw it as a clean source of energy with no downside whatsoever. So, as you watch this film, please bear that in mind. After all, Walt was an optimist. Who else would have called a program like this Our Friend the Atom?
Walt Disney's Disneyland.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are.
Each week as you enter this timeless land, one of these many worlds will open to you. Frontierland. Tall tales and true from the legendary past. Tomorrowland. Promise of things to come. Adventureland, the wonder world of nature's own realm. Fantasyland, the happiest kingdom of them all. Presenting this week,
Many years ago, a prophetic writer and engineer told of the genius of one man who discovered the very power of the universe and harnessed it to propel his ship 20,000 leagues under the sea. But the hero of that story was afraid to let this power fall into the hands of an immature mankind. And so he chose rather to destroy his own work. Yet there is hope. In God's good time, nature's own energies will come to humankind for a better and a richer life.
Fiction often has a way of becoming fact. Not long ago, we brought you the immortal tale, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, featuring the famous submarine, Nautilus. According to the story, this craft was powered by a magic force. Today, that tale has come true. This is a model of the real Nautilus, the world's first atom-powered ship. It's the first example of the useful power of the atom that will drive the machines of our atomic age. The atom is our future. It is a subject everyone wants to understand. So we felt it was the most important topic for a Tomorrowland program. In fact, we considered it so important that we embarked on several atomic projects. For one, we made plans to build an exhibit at Disneyland that will show you atomic energy in action. Now, our atomic projects here at the studio are twofold. We prepared this program and also a book so that we could tell you this important story in full detail. Both grew together. We gave them the same title, and many of the illustrations appear in both. As you can see, we found ourselves deep in the field of nuclear physics. Of course, we don't pretend to be scientists. We're storytellers. So we combine the tools of our trade with the knowledge of experts. We added a nationally known scientist to our staff to head our new science department. His first assignment was to write the book on the atom and to help us in developing this program. And here to tell you the story of our friend the atom is the author of our book, Dr. Heinz Haber.
As we developed our story of the atom, we made an amazing discovery. We had a science story, but suddenly we realized that it was almost like a fairy tale. By a strange coincidence, our story turned out to be like the old fable from the Arabian Nights, the fisherman and the genie. This tale tells of an age-old wish of man, a wish to be the master of a mighty genie that does his bidding. There was once an old fisherman who lived in great poverty. One day, after casting his net many times, he happened to pull ashore a brazen vessel. Its mouth was closed with a lead stopper. Marveling at his strange catch, the fisherman said,
"I'll wager that whatever is sealed so well must contain something of great value."
Know that presently thou wilt have to die.
Heaven forbid! Or at least tell me why.
As I lay imprisoned in that tiny jar for many centuries, my anger grew and grew until I swore in my heart that my liberator should perish.
What a cruel trick fate hath dealt me. Trick? Oh, genie, since thou art determined upon my death, grant me this one last question.
Well?
How can one as mighty and powerful as thou dwell in so tiny a vessel?
What? Thou dost not believe me?
Not till I have seen it done can I believe it.
Watch then.
Now you shall return to the sea.
Nay, I did not mean what I said. No, release me, and I give my solemn vow to grant thee 3 wishes.
Strangely enough, our story is like that fable, come true through science. We are like the fishermen. For centuries, we have been casting our net into the sea of the great unknown in search of knowledge. And finally, we found a vessel. And like the one in the fable, it contains a genie hidden in the atoms of this metal, uranium. Let me show you. This is a Geiger counter. It tells us that the genie is here, imprisoned in these atoms. So this is our story. How the vessel was discovered, how the genie was liberated, how he first threatened to kill, and how he was finally harnessed to grant us 3 wishes. Our story begins in ancient Greece in 400 BC. At that time, man firmly believed that all things were composed of 4 basic elements: earth, air, water, and fire. But Democritus, a philosopher of that era, thought that these elements could be divided into smaller particles. In fact, he even gave them their name, Atomos, which means indivisible.
I crumbled this earth to soil, and in turn crumbled this soil to dust. Now, if I could reduce this dust into its smallest particles, these would be atoms. This beach appears to be a solid carpet, but on closer inspection, we see that it is made of millions of grains of sand. If we think of grains of sand as atoms and pack them together, they can be molded into any desired form. So it is in this way nature uses these tiny particles, these atoms, to build all things: the earth, water, air, and fire.
If air and fire consist of small particles, how can they rise? They would fall to the earth like a shower of pebbles.
The man who disagreed with Democritus was Aristotle, a famous Greek philosopher. His philosophy shaped the thinking of man for the next 2,000 years. And so the idea of the atom was lost. In the 17th century, man went beyond mere thinking. He began to act. His philosophy became seeing is believing. He invented the telescope, and this magic instrument greatly extended his range of sight.